Okay, I'm replacing the wheel bearing on this Malibu. Back up here. And originally I thought the grinding noise was the CV axle right here, but I put that new one in, and then I put it in drive with the wheel off the ground, and I could hear the grinding noise coming from the rotor. So I know it's the wheel bearing, and I took it out. Okay, there's the old one, and you can see here where the rotor goes through. I think this wire is, if you've got automatic braking, like on slippery roads, so I think it's a wheel speed sensor. And so what I did, okay, this thing here has got two long bolts that go through here. I have to take those out, and then this steering link has to come off. I thought I'd have to, be hard to get out. I would need a tie rod separator, but I just took the nut off the bottom, and it just came out. I could just pull it out with my hands, so that wasn't very hard. I've got the rotor. I left the brake calipers on, and I've wired it to the shock absorber tower. You don't want it hanging by the brake hose. And here you can see the new axle I put in. That wasn't the problem. I'll just leave it in anyway. And to get this out, the wheel bearing out, there you go in from behind, and you got these three bolts. I think those are the right bolts. You take them out, and then you can tap it from behind, and it just falls out. Comes out real easy. It's not real tight. So I'm going to put, here's the new wheel bearing, just came in. I'm going to put that in the car, and we'll see where that goes. Should mention this Haynes showed using a special puller to pull the bearing out, and it presses against this, but that doesn't work because it just is flexible and it moves back, so you got nothing to pry. I don't understand how it works, so I just removed it from the back side, the whole hub, and that's how the new part is sold anyway, as a hub and wheel bearing assembly. Now I'm going to I put the axle through the wheel bearing, what they call that, the knuckle, first, and then instead of putting the unit in first and then the axle, I'm going to try putting that in first and then fitting this around it. And I'm going to turn the camera off and do that. I don't do my best work with the camera rolling, so we'll put it in and I'll tell you how it went. Okay, now here's something. This got a bracket here that goes on, holds the wheel speed sensor in place. Now I'm going to put that on the back side of the knuckle and guide the bearing through, and once it's through, then I'll put this bracket again. It goes on the back side of the steering knuckle. Okay, this metal bracket here, that actually goes on the front side of the knuckle, not the back side like I thought. So there's no other way for it to go. And it holds the connector over there. Also, I tried putting it in with the CV axle in place, and I couldn't get it through. So I'm going to loosely attach this wheel bearing. It's got 3 bolts here. There's another one there, another one on the other side, and then try and guide the CV axle through the new wheel bearing. Okay, I've got 3 mounting bolts in the back of the knuckle in. Now I've got to try and put the CV axle in through the wheel bearing, and you have to kind of bend it around up there, and it does flex quite a bit, and it seems like it won't go, but if you just keep working on it, it'll barely clear the edge of the knuckle housing and hopefully go inside the new wheel bearing. It's splined there, so the splines have to match with the splines inside the wheel bearing. Okay, I screwed it up. You want to rotate your hub so that wire on the back that you see here in the old part, it needs to be as close as possible to this bracket holder. Otherwise, it won't reach the connection. So make sure it's as far to the about 3 o'clock position as you can get it. Okay, I've got it in and it caught the splines. Here's a tip for you. When you're putting it back in and it looks like it's impossible, put your screwdriver in there on the part that's too close and pry on the axle, and at the same time tap lightly on the housing here, and it should slide right under your spline. So use the screwdriver and twist it a little bit to get the splines to line up, and it's easy. Here's the tool I use to tighten these 3 bolts back to the back side of the knuckle. It's a deep well 13mm socket and a ratchet. And then I'm leaving this out until I tighten that hub assembly in to give me a little more clearance. You can see there. Okay, now that 1/2-inch drive ratchet was too big for this top bolt, so I'm switching to a 3/8-inch drive with a much smaller head, and I can get it there. See, I can get it in there. Just barely get it in there on that bolt, so you might have to experiment a little with different size of ratchets. This is a 3/8-inch drive. Okay, you get knock your knuckle, top part of your knuckle back into the shock absorber tower, and you've got to fit these 2 spline bolts through it, and then put the nut on the other side. You got to line it up here, so it might take a minute to do that. Okay, on this clip, it's easier to slide it out of the bracket and then put it on, but you might have to bend it, and then you can bend it back to get it on, and then just slide it up under the deal there instead of trying to put it in with this holder attached to the bracket. So do it like this and then slide the whole unit back into the bracket holder. Okay, I'm going to put the steering wheel back in. Goes in easy. The stud turns, so it's got a little gizmo on the bottom. 8 millimeters will hold it so you can get the nut off. So you're going to have to hold that while you're taking the nut off. Okay, now I'm going to put this rotor back on at long last. I think should just go right over the studs there. So I'll cut that suspending wire and see if I can't get it back on. Okay, I got the rotor back on. I never did take the calipers off. Now there's 2 bolts that secure the calipers there. There's one of them, top and bottom. Put that on, then we've got to put the this big axle nut on, and then it should be ready to test. Okay, I got those in now. Put this axle nut back on, but just snug it up with your fingers and don't tighten it until you got the weight of the car and the tire back on and the weight of the car on it before you get it really tight. Okay, I got it back on. Looks pretty good. I'm going to put the tire back on. It's in drive.